The Washington Post is reporting that the Obama administration is considering getting more involved in Iraq and Syria. So recently we discussed how the U.S. upped our role in Afghanistan, and they said we're going to stay there now through the end of Obama's term. And now we're considering, well, maybe we should do that in Iraq and Syria. They say, quote, Obama's most senior national security advisors have recommended measures that would move U.S. troops closer to the front lines in Iraq and Syria, a sign of mounting White House dissatisfaction with progress against the Islamic State and a renewed Pentagon push to expand military involvement in long-running conflicts overseas. The debate over the proposed steps, which would, for the first time, position a limited number of special operations forces on the ground in Syria and put U.S. advisors closer to the firefights in Iraq, comes as Defense Secretary Ashton B. Carter presses the military to deliver new options for greater military involvement in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. The changes would represent a significant escalation of the American role in Iraq and Syria. All right, so let's stop and think about this here. In other words, the people who are part of the military establishment, the Pentagon, military advisors, and people like that, they are now pressing Obama and others in the administration to up our role in Iraq and Syria. And perhaps one of the main reasons they're doing it is they saw that President Obama essentially buckled when it came to Afghanistan, and he said, yeah, okay, let's keep people there longer, and we're going to keep them there even, through the time where I'm leaving office. So his promise to end the war, he didn't fulfill it. He did the opposite. He's keeping troops there. So now they see, okay, we got a green light here. He's open to it. He's open to more military solutions. Let's give him more for the other areas and the other conflicts. Now think about the problem with that. The problem with that is the Pentagon and military experts, military officials, have historically always said more military is the answer, more war is the answer, more bombing is the answer, more involvement is the answer. And historically, they've been wrong most of the time. I mean, take Vietnam, for example. Lyndon B. Johnson, if he didn't escalate the war in Vietnam, he would have had a decent presidency. I mean, people after the fact now can look back and say, well, he did a guns and butter policy, which means, okay, he did social spending, he did the war on poverty, he did stuff like that, which was good, but then he also did increase and escalated the war in Vietnam, which was an epic disaster, because of course it was unwinnable, and it was a giant quagmire. But what happened? See, LBJ listened to all the military advisors who kept telling him, increase, increase, increase. JFK did the same thing. This idea that, JFK, a great anti-war president, bullshit. He increased our role in Vietnam. So now we're seeing the same thing today with President Obama. He's not standing strong and being principled and saying, no, I said I was going to end these wars. I'm going to end these wars. All of the bullshit rationalizations to stay there, all of the threats credible and not in the region. Now he's listening to it. He's going, well, Iraq was a disaster after we pulled out from certain areas and ISIS came up. So maybe we need to prevent that from happening with the Taliban in Afghanistan. Maybe we need to prevent a worse situation from unfolding in Syria. But what he's not getting, and what all these people are not getting, is that the region is already broken. So now, by definition, whenever you pull out, which eventually you're going to pull out unless you want to stay there forever, which is crazy, it's going to go to shit. So the problem was getting involved in the first place. Now, each area is a little bit different, clearly. So when you talk about a place like Syria, there was a civil war that came about there. So obviously you can't fully blame all the problems on the United States of America. That would be ridiculous. Iraq is a different case. Afghanistan is a different case. We can go on and discuss each one individually. But the bottom line is, more intervention ain't gonna fix it. And to take the opposite position at this point means you're ignorant or stupid. There's no other way to describe it, because, just go back to the beginning of the war on terror and fast forward to today. They said at the beginning of the war on terror, our goal is to limit or eliminate terrorism, and specifically this kind of terrorism, al-Qaeda, jihadism, stuff like that. What happened since we began the war on terror? That's increased. So it's been an abject failure. It's been a measurable failure. Same thing with the war on drugs. I always draw this analogy because it's true. They waged a war on drugs. They said, this is going to make us so we limit or eliminate the amount of drug use going on. What happened? The exact opposite. More people are doing drugs now than before the war on drugs. There's also 60,000 people that died on the border in a literal drug war, because it's a war. You've also made the drug gangs more powerful. So the exact opposite of what you wanted to happen, happened. It's the same thing with these military interventions. But President Obama is just, mushy leader he is like, oh, my military advisors disagree. They want to do more military solutions. I'm listening to it. Of course they want to do more military solutions. That's their fucking job.